Hello and welcome back to our AI series in Unreal Engine 5. In this episode, we're going to work on our patrol path sequence again, this time introducing the outcomes, allowing us to change what happens when the AI reaches the end of the path, as well as some other little features that we can add to our patrol path points to add little extra nice little touches. So let's get started. So the last time we were here, we made this patrol path system, and our AI will follow it told to. However, we're going to add some nice little features to this, such as when we make them actually look in a direction we dictated via our patrol path points. We're going to change also their behavior, what happens when they complete a loop. Do they want to continue the loop round, or ping pong back, or stand still? And also give the option to set some actions based upon these patrol path points. So the first thing we do is get them to actually just respond to the end of the loop. So when they get round to the end, what they're going to do. So currently, our patrol path is here, and when they reach the end, we are setting it back down to 0 and moving on. Now we only want to do this if the patroller is patrolling and wants it to do a complete loop and keep doing the loop. We're going to change that around. So let's make an enum for this. So let's create a blueprint enumeration, e patrol path outcome, and we're going to do first one here. It's going to be loop, and the description for this is going to be return to the first point. The next one is going to be return, and that'll be traveling the route backwards. Okay, and then we'll have another one for none. Stand still. Okay, save that. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can use this. So our NPC currently is following this path. Now this path is being controlled by this AI behavior component that we made. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit this behavior task. So right click on that and edit AI behavior. And in the variables here, we're going to have the patrol path outcome. And that's going to be using our new enumerator. So E patrol path outcome. And we're going to also make that editable. Compile and save that. Okay, so now let's go back to our patrol. And over here, we are getting the patrol path quite easily from our setup over here, where we're getting the component by class and getting the patrol path. We also want to get the patrol path outcome from this. So just like how we've got the patrol path here and we're setting it over here as a variable, we similarly want to do the same thing for the patrol path outcome. So patrol path and get patrol path outcome, and I will promote that to a variable. So I've got it saved, ready for use over here. And over here is that when we end the waiting. So basically this branch, when it hits true, this means that it has reached the end of the patrol path in its current state. So we're going to do a switch here based upon our outcome. So let's drag that out and do switch, and do switch on patrol path outcome. You'll see those 3 different options we made for our patrol path. So this one we originally set up, this is the loop. So we're going to just drag that into loop, and that's that one done. Next we've got return. Now return, basically what it's going to do is going to tell it to go back in reverse order. So what we're going to have is another variable in our task here for direction. So I'll do path direction, and this is going to be an integer. So I'm going to take my integer and compile that. And path direction, we're going to take that out, and we're going to multiply this by -1. So if our path direction was 1, it's going to make it -1. If it is -1, it'll make it +1. We're going to set that back to path direction there. And then we're going to move to patrol point. That. Okay, so path direction is now negative value. And when it goes back to move to patrol point, oh, hold on, we need to, before we do that, we need to tell the current patrol index. Out. Set that. In fact, actually, I think we can actually leave that out. Actually, I think we can just do with just this. Yeah. So the path direction multiplied by -1 will just flip it around, and it'll go around and continue moving to the patrol point. Now, we need to use this direction over when we do patrol path index, and patrol path index is adding by using this increment here. I want to change this, so rather than just adding like that, we're going to do the addition node itself. Plug that in, and then set that to current patrol path index. And we're going to put in the path direction. Now, path direction will make sure the default for this is 1. So it always increases by 1. We put it into this addition here. So if it's 1 and we're going forwards, it'll just keep incrementing like normal. But if it's -1, because we've reached the end already and it's turning around, the path direction should be -1, and if that it'll make it smaller, and it'll keep going and going and going until it is no longer valid. Now, at the moment, we're just doing a check for length. We want to change that to a check of validity. So I'm going to change that from length there, and we're going to do keys, and is valid index. And I'm just going to make this a little function for us. I'm going to right click on this and collapse the function, and we'll call this one as is valid map index. And I'll make this a pure function. Open it up, and inside our valid map index, we're just going to plug this map index, this valid index over here as a pin for the index to test. Now, we're not outputting the patrol path, we just want to output the boolean, so plug that in there, and we'll just clear the output there. So it just looks pretty simple. We get the patrol path, getting its keys, checking if it's a valid index, and outputting true or false. And because it's a pure function, it'll get it right there and then as the most accurate timing it can be. So, is valid map index would go into our current path index there. And then that will go into our branch. And because that is doing basically the opposite of what we had before, we want to swap true and false around here. So false, come into true there, and false, the way around, true goes into false. Move that down, like so. Okay, so when we end up waiting for a move on to the next point, we're getting the current point, adding on whatever the path direction is to the new current patrol index, checking whether it's a valid index. If it is, great, move to it. If it's not, now it means we've reached the end of some description, either the very end or the very beginning if we're going in reverse, and then it's going to flip round and do these various things. And if it's set to none, we're basically going to do nothing. Okay, so here we're going to tell it to basically stand still. Now, at the moment, it's just going to do this and then keep going round, around, around. We want it to finish this execute here. And we're going to put that down here as a success. Hit compile and save. So on second thought, we actually do need to put in our new current patrol index over here, because we're changing it once already here already, increasing it beyond the valid index. And this is going to, we want to make sure we set it back to its non-valid index. So what I'm going to do here is just basically copy this again and put this over here after path direction has been changed. Okay, so with all that done, we should be able to go in here and test this out. So we've got our character set up here to return. So it should go around the loop to the end one, which is this one, and then return back the same path back. Okay, so let's watch him do this. So here he comes. Going around. Gets to here, the end point. And now he's going to go back the way he came. Yeah. And you do the same stuff each way he goes. It's just going in different directions. As he reaches back to his beginning, he's now going to bounce back and continue going round. So let's check out the other ones, make sure that they're working okay. So we're going to change that to loop. Let's see if that works. That should be what we had before, where it gets to the end and just goes back to the first point in a continuous loop. And it should go down here. There you are. And do the loop again. And then finally we've got stop, where he just does nothing, or none rather. So he should just get to the end and then shouldn't do any more. Actually, no, that's not accurate. I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to keep looping around. That's my theory out. I'll explain why that theory is the case. Yep, so it's going to continue around and do the loop. The reason why it's going to do it again, see, here's the error. The task patrol here, when we do let it finish execute, basically the behavior tree then is going to leave this and move on. But if it comes down to here, again, all those values that we've set up in here are reset, including the path index. So we don't want it to finish execute. We just don't want it to do anything. So if you leave that as none, as nothing, not attached to anything, it will just get stuck inside this BT task patrol. And you can leave it like that, really. Should we just test that out again? It's set to none. So you should just stop when he gets here, because he's got nothing else to do. He'll just keep getting stuck there. There you go. Okay, so that is our patrol path outcomes added in. I now want them to do something different at each of these patrol paths. So with these path points, we've got these arrows on them dictating which way we want him to ideally face. So what I'm going to do is make it so that when he enters this area and stops at it, we want it to trigger and say, hey, do your thing. Now, not when as soon as he enters, I want him to wait till he stops and then does it. So we're going to work in combination of what we've got here for our patrol path index, patrol path point, sorry, and our patrol path task. So our patrol paths here need to have an idea of when they should do this. So we're going to go into our patrol path here, and we're going to have a custom event in it called on patroller entered. So when the patroller's entered that patrol path point and is ready to do its thing, it will call this. Now, right now, we're going to leave it blank. Come back to that in a second. Now let's go over to our BT task patrol. So on patrol, we've got when he reaches the location on keys here is when we set a timer to end waiting. Now alongside setting the timer, we also want to tell our get here, reference to it, to call that event we just made. So we're going to do on patroller entered. And now our patrol point can have extra code in it to run different things. So let's take a look at that. We're going to go into our patrol point, and I'm going to make him first of all turn and rotate around to face the same way as the arrow. Now currently our character is turning and rotating based upon their control rotation. So if we go to their character, which is here, you can see on the character movement we've set up the rotation settings to rotate using the controller desired rotation. So theoretically all I have to do is change the control rotation to match what I want him to do. So in our patrol path point, I can get our patroller, and I want to actually know which patroller is going to be doing it. So what I'm actually going to do on this patrol entered is add an input to this to know who it is. I'm going to change that to a character. Put in a character. That. Now when I compile this will be fine, but the PT Task Patrol now will have a blank character pin on it. And that is going to be our controlled pawn. I'm going to get that out, and we want to drag this into that pin, but we can't because it is a pawn, not a character. So from the controlled pawn here, we're going to cut us to a character, and I'll make that a pure cast, and there we go. So now if I go back to my patrol path point, I now have access to who it is we're dealing with. And what I want to do here is I'm going to take out this character, get the controller, and I want to set the control rotation of that controller to the rotation of our arrow here. So drag out the arrow, get world rotation, and plug that into the rotation. Okay. So let's test this out. What I'm also doing here, do a print string, indicate when we've met. I'll just say hello. So if I go into the game, push play, there's hello there. Hello, but he's not turning by the looks of it. So let's take a look at what's going wrong here. Oh, actually, it could be. I don't know. Hello. I'm going to make it a bit obvious. I'm going to turn this one round. Wait. Okay. So let's see that in action. See if that does turn around, or if we've got an issue. Nope, we've got an issue. Okay, so his control rotation is not turning him around. The only reason that would be the case would be that there's something else controlling his control rotation. So we need to take a look at that and break that down. So because the control rotation is being adjusted by something else, we can't really use it. So what we're going to do instead is on patroller entered is I'm going to turn it around using the tick event and using a lerp. So I'm going to take the tick and put in a gate. And this gate is going to be opened by our patrol entered. Now, on the exit of this, we are going to make him rotate to face the same rotation of the arrow over a lerp. And because it's on a tick, it will lerp smoothly. So we're going to do rinterp2. And we're going to take the target value is the arrow's world rotation. We'll plug that in there. Then the current is going to be the characters. So we're going to get that reference there. And in fact, actually, let's promote this reference here whilst we're here. Now, promoting it because I want to make sure I get a clean reference and that reference doesn't get lost each time. So I'm going to put that in there. That. And I'm going to get the character and get their actor rotation. Put that into current. Delta time could be delta seconds here, or you can do world delta seconds, whichever one you want to do. Insert speeds, how fast they're going to turn, so we'll do it as 2 for now. And then we're going to set that back to the character's rotation. So character, set actor rotation, and plug that in. Now that's going to open up this gate, but it's not going to close the gate. We do want to actually close that eventually. We don't want to keep it open the whole entire time. So what we're going to do is make something that does on patrol exit to close it. So let's do a custom event on controller exit, and that's going to go into the close of that gate. I'll save that. Okay, let's put our print string in to our thing so we know what's going on. In fact, actually, I'm going to do that on a sequence here. Hang on, let's just move this up. And I'll put this into a sequence so the character gets set, then it goes into a sequence. And then 0 will go into the open, and then 1 will go into our print string. There we go. There, that's it. Let's do it a bit tidier. Okay, so if I now look back this now, we're going to go through a gate event, and in here we're going to tell the character to slowly lerp the rotation towards the arrow over time. And when it's exiting, we want it to call our on patrol exit. So this thing we need to call, and we'll do that on our PT Task Patrol. And what we're going to do is do that on the end waiting here. So when the end waiting is finished, we're going to call that thing. Now on here, we want to get access to this reference here. So it might be actually worthwhile promoting this get here to a variable and do this current point control point. We'll do that. Rather than dragging lines everywhere and managing that all over and over again, I just get a control point and just drag that out. Now I can save myself a little bit of lineage. I can just put that in there instead. Ooh, that. And now I don't have a line going right across. And on the end waiting here, I want to move all this along. Select all of this, and move it along. And I'm going to tell my current patrol point that I'm exiting. So on patroller exit. So let's take a look at that in action. So when he comes in, you see that slow turn. He turns around. This one should be more obvious. Turn him back around like that. With those points there. And there we have it. Now, because we have those patrol enters and exits as well, we can also do other things like special events or triggers or whatever you want as well. So if you go into the patrol path point, you can add anything to this sequence here after this print string, or instead of this print string, to do anything. Now, to make this really useful for level blueprints and for animations and anything like that, we're going to go into the event dispatcher and we're going to do on point met, and we're going to drag that out and call that on point met. So if I've got a specific event I want to happen at a certain point in the game, so something like when he enters this point, I want an explosion to go off or something, I can easily do that now because I can just select the patrol point, go into the level blueprint, and then I can right click and add an event default, and there's my on point met. And that means that will trigger when this gets called. Okay, so you can do some pretty neat things with that. And there you go, we've now got our patrol paths pretty much done. I'm quite happy with how they've turned out. And by all means, you can use those different events and different functions to call all sorts of crazy things to happen. So it's really, really quite flexible. In the next episode, we're going to go through and look at another sense on our perception system and look at the touch sense. So if you want to watch that episode right now, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Laley, where all my videos are early for all patrons, donating just $1 a month. Thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for the continued support. Make sure you subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone.